everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nike Guys podcast. I'm your host, Sid, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Pat and Doug.
Today we're going to be talking about the Nephilim again. This is our last video in this series, and we're going to be talking about the Nephilim specifically having to do with the Conquest of Canaan. What were the Nephilim doing there? How did they get there? Were they all killed? Theories about that. And so let's get right into it. Doug, do you want to read the reference that talks about the Nephilim being in Canaan?
Yeah. Okay, so, and we've read this before on, I think, the last episode, but we're going to read it again. And this is the 12 spies coming back from Canaan and giving their report. And Numbers 13:33 says, "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants," that word giants is Hebrew Nephilim, "and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight."
So do we want to talk about now how are the Nephilim there? We talked about this a little bit before. We said we're going to get into it more now. Or Sid, do you want to read about some of the conquering, the slaying of the Nephilim?
Let's discuss a little bit our theories on why they might have been there.
So
how did we get Nephilim after the flood, right? That's what we want to debate a little bit.
Yeah, so there's the three big theories that there are is that the humans reproduce with humans again. Angels.
With angels.
Angels reproduce with humans again, producing the Nephilim a second time. It's like a second coming of the Nephilim. And the other theory is that somehow tainted DNA came through probably Noah's daughters-in-law and brought some of like this tainted angel DNA through the line, and eventually they sort of resurface again. And the last one is that this is simply like hyperbole, and the spies are saying this to literally just scare the Israelites and be like, "Oh, we saw the Nephilim, these Anakim, they're like Nephilim, they're from the Nephilim, and they're going to totally kill you, so don't go into Canaan." I think those are the three major theories. Do you all have any more?
Well, I thought the theory we almost landed on was that we thought that the spirits stayed on Earth. Okay, we can debunk the theory that the angels came back. I'm pretty sure we can debunk that biblically because the Bible was very clear when the flood came along, or the book of Enoch at least was very clear when the flood came along. All the angels who had caused this corruption were bound till the great judgment. Right?
Yes.
So if you believe that, and the book of Enoch is kind of what leads to a lot of these theories about them, then you should believe that definitely it probably wasn't that the angels came back again. If it would have been, it would have had to be new angels because the 200 were bound.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much implausible. I don't know, Doug, do you think that theory is at all plausible?
No, I don't think it holds up.
So where I was going with that was, I think our working theory was kind of that the spirits stayed. The book of Enoch said that. The spirits hung around, whatever, were not destroyed. They were going to wander the earth or something. And somehow we get these spirits back to interacting with humans. And back to maybe physically altering DNA, not through... I don't know. That was our theory, is that somehow these people got back in touch with these spirits and the witchcraft from before the flood. And that's where we're getting these giants from. I think that was
that's right. I forgot that we did sort of settle on that. I think for the most part, Doug, you pretty well agree with that.
Yeah,
that had something
that seems coherent, at least on the surface level. And there's too many verses about Nephilim and Nephilim descendants after the flood to just write it off, right? As figurative language.
Now, they don't use the word Nephilim much afterwards. They usually stick to Anakim.
Sons of Anak or Rephaim.
But they do use the word Nephilim one time. Correct?
Yeah, in the verse
that he just read. Right. And some people would choose to say that it was like unto Nephilim.
But it clearly says in that verse, because we went over this one in our last video.
But it depends on the translation.
It says they come of the giants, so they were descendants of the giants.
Okay.
Like, it's pretty clear that...
I just don't see that whole figurative explanation.
I don't...
Coherent.
If you want a good reason to say that Nephilim were not part angels, you could argue that if God had sent a flood to destroy them, he would have destroyed them. At the same time, the spirits clearly stayed on Earth. So, why wasn't it possible that we could get them back somehow?
Yeah, if you're believing the book of Enoch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and even just believing the regular Bible would say you don't believe the book of Enoch, but you want to believe in the Nephilim, you could still say, well, the Nephilim should have gotten wiped out by the flood. Like,
Yeah, no.
You would've thought God
I'm just
would.
saying the part about the spirits staying on Earth is specifically from
yes,
the book
it's
of Enoch,
specifically,
yeah.
yes,
because otherwise you don't really see like the spirits of angels hanging around on Earth. Like angels
well,
are
we
pretty
see
well.
evil spirits in the Bible.
Yeah, you see
That's
evil
pretty
spirits.
obvious.
That's true.
So where they come from, whether or not they're from the Watchers' descendants, I guess, is up for debate.
So if our working theory is that the people of Canaan somehow contacted spirits they shouldn't have been messing with, they were into all kinds of pagan rituals, and they brought back these spirits or
I mean,
conjured
the
them
spirits
up.
are malicious, so they were definitely involved in
Yeah.
returning, I
Yeah.
would argue.
Whatever, but allowed themselves to be possessed by them is basically what I'm getting to. And so you get a whole new race of giants. Is
Sure.
sort of the working theory for the moment.
I'd say, I mean, I'm not...
None of you ever seem to bite on the theory that it's through Noah's
It just doesn't make sense. I really can't hack that one.
I don't think God would have instructed him to let them on the ark if he knew they had tainted DNA or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's true. I just love that there's that theory out there, and I can keep bringing it up and tormenting people with it.
No, it's fine. Like, I am very open to consider all the theories. Like, I'm not trying to say you can't consider them.
Yeah, but to be clear, I also don't find that's implausible. Again,
I don't think God doesn't make mistakes, and so I don't think he would accidentally, let some of them exist if he was trying to wipe them out. At the same time, to let the spirits exist, and then still, but the spirit world is distinctly different from the physical world, so I don't know.
Yeah, Sydney, do you have the reference, or did I make Doug get the reference where they talk about driving the sons of Enoch out, except for a few specific spots?
I have it. Joshua 11:21 and 22. And at that time came Joshua, and cut off the Anakim from the mountains, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, and from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. There was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod there remained. So that, you see a lot of them being wiped out right there. It doesn't really list how many, but there you see a lot of them being wiped out.
And critically, those Ashdod, Gaza, and I forget which other city it was. Was it?
Ashdod, Gath.
And Gath.
Which is where Goliath would have come from.
Then, who's the most famous
Goliath,
person from Gath? Goliath of Gath. But also, those are all Philistine cities, and the Philistines are going to go on and be the biggest pain in the Israelite side, forever. Which I think is sort of interesting. It's almost like you have the Nephilim that are sort of the destroyers, whatever their name means, the wreckers before the flood, causing all kinds of problems on earth. And then you have the Philistines, who are almost like a mini version of this, that are the wreckers, the destroyers of Israel, for as long as they're allowed to flourish and as long as they have Anakims among them. But obviously they drove them out to these cities, and then do you also have the reference where it talks about the last wiping out of the Anakim? Or the last giants. Because obviously David kills Goliath.
I'm not 100% sure that this one for sure says they all get killed, but it talks about a lot of that, a lot of slaying of giants. So 2 Samuel 21:15 to 22. And I will read that. Moreover, the Philistines had yet war with Israel, and David went down, and his servants with him, and fought against the Philistines, and David waxed faint. And Ishbi-Benob, which was of the sons of the giants, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight, and per artificial intelligence, that's about 7.5 pounds. Just brief side note, which is pretty heavy for a spear, so it indicates it probably wasn't a throwing spear, it was most likely wielded. But let me finish the verse. He, being girded with a new sword, thought to have slain David. So he was carrying both the spear and a sword, which may indicate, But they're noting that, yes, that he's strong, and it's interesting because they're noting that the spear is heavy, and then they say he also carried a new sword. Anyway, just interesting side note. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, succored him, and smote the Philistine, and killed him. Then the men of David sware unto him, saying, Thou shalt go no more out with us to battle, that thou quench not the light of Israel. And it came to pass after this that there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gob. And then Sibbecai the Hushathite slew Saph, which was of the sons of the giants. And there was again a battle in Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan, the son of Jeragoragim, a Bethlehemite, slew the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. So once again, a reference to very big handheld weapons. And there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number, and he was also born to the giant. And when he defiled Israel, Jonathan the son of Shimeah, the brother of David, slew him. These 4 were born to the giants in Gath, and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. So it doesn't definitively say that that was all of the remaining giants.
No, it doesn't say that there.
But that was a list of 4 of them.
Which were, as I have to go check, and maybe I'm lying about this, but I think those were all supposed to be siblings of Goliath.
Yeah, these 4 were born to the giant in Gath.
So it maybe doesn't say if it actually...
Well, they reference a Goliath.
Are they born to Goliath?
Born to the giant in Gath, but
I'm not sure who the giant in Gath is being referenced here. That's anything I'm confused about.
It's either not... They talk about the Goliath the Gittite, but I thought it was normally Goliath of Gath.
Yeah, I think that's a different Goliath.
It might be different Goliath. It might be the same one. I'm a little unclear on that.
Is Gittite just like the noun form of someone who's from Gath, though? Doesn't that kind of make sense? But
I don't know.
The other thing I want to
Gittite
get, that says 6 fingers and 6 toes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that's the kind of a commonly known trait of Nephilim DNA or Nephilim blood, is having an extra finger or toe.
Okay.
All my Nephilim do too, or what? Like commonly known trait.
I almost
Or
think
like-
that's...
Yeah, no, like in all the stories and whatever, these
Okay,
beings have
gotcha.
6 fingers and 6 toes.
Would I be wrong if I said that that is actually the... when you're talking about genetics, that's the... Oh man, what's the word I want for it? The dominant trait. Or the dominant gene. If you have the gene for 6 fingers, it's dominant, so you will have 6 fingers, or am I confused?
I don't study genetics.
I don't remember. I almost thought it was a dominant gene, so like if you have the gene, you're going to have 6 fingers, rather than it could be recessive, but I don't actually remember, so don't take my word.
No, I was just coming at it more from the standpoint of... Like,
You also
I'm
see
saying
that in some midgets.
Right, and I'm not trying to say that the midgets...
The DNA got to them, bro.
I'm saying that in ancient stories and all that, 6 fingers is a common trait.
Sure.
And also, you could take it symbolic as a symbol. I can't even think of the word right now.
Not as a symbol.
No, because here's the thing. So the number 6 in Scripture always refers to humanity or the devil. So 6 is the number of almost perfection, but counterfeit. Right. Like 6 is like the counterfeit number compared to 7. 6, 7 again.
Gotta hit them, you know.
So I just thought about it. You're talking about so like they're pointing out, okay,
point.
These people have 6 fingers, 6 toes, like the Nephilim, but also again, it's like to show they're evil or something. Not saying everybody has 6 fingers and 6 toes is evil, but
I mean, no more evil than anybody else necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Is there anything you wanted to say about those verses? Is there any verses I missed reading before we get down to just general discussions?
There is some more verses, right? But we're not going to read them all.
But
or we're just going to be reading a lot of verses. We don't want to bore our audience more than we probably already are.
Yes. There's a lot of verses that reference, like, okay, the Anakim used to be here and they were driven out of these cities or whatever, but you can look them up and read them. We don't need to read you a ton of places. Unless do you have any more verses you want to read, Doug?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, so here's a hilarious theory. Okay, I think it's hilarious. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to bias the theory before you listen to it. So, in this, not only in this chapter, but there's a certain chapter in, maybe it's 2 Samuel there, where they go over a list of David's mighty men.
Okay.
And talk about all their deeds, and like these guys were like the top 3 dudes, and these were the top 10 dudes, and these were the top 60 dudes, whatever. There's a theory that David's mighty men were actually all Nephilim, but good Nephilim. And that's why they can slay like 800 people in a day.
But didn't David do that?
Yeah, I mean, David killed a lot of people, but
No,
These mighty
David
men
had-
are all singled out for some great act they did.
Hey, how about the left-handed warriors? Doesn't the Bible talk
Yeah,
about
they're from the
band
tribe of Dan.
Yeah, you gotta watch those Danish people.
No, I just thought it was hilarious. Good
Fascinating
Nephilim.
theory.
There's good. Like the theory is arguing that there are good Nephilim.
Okay, but if there's good Nephilim, then I think that defeats the theory that they are descendants of the angels. Although technically, I don't know, that gets really messy. You could
Yeah, but
argue
should
that
they have
anyone
free
could
choice?
be redeemed. You could argue that they should have free choice because they're human, but if they're also evil angel DNA, like the Nephilim are always referred to as bad.
Yeah, that's why I think the theory is hilarious. But I just want to see what y'all had to say.
King
about
Saul
it.
was a head and shoulders above people. Was he a good Nephilim?
No, he turned out to be bad. So he
But
was
God
definitely a
ordained him king, so
definitely not a Nephilim. No, I don't think I subscribe to it. What do you got to say?
I don't think any of these human angel, like half breeds or whatever, were good, right? But also, like the free will thing, like
it gets messy.
it gets very messy very quickly. Because the other part that I wanted to talk about was where God like commands the complete destruction of an entire city. You know, kill everybody. You know, women, children, old people.
Cattle, like
Yeah. What's that about? Is there a connection? Were those cities right? Because you know, God on the one hand is saying do not kill, or thou shalt not kill. On the other hand, he's saying kill everybody in this city, and not just the warriors, the women and children.
no, I've seen that theory that it's like again to wipe out some Nephilim DNA or something that they got to kill everybody. But
Or was it just because the Israelites were notoriously bad about falling into sin for any reason? Kind of like people today.
It's kind of a them problem, though.
I don't know. We've just been studying this like in Sunday school, and I'm like,
'Cause-
the Israelites are notoriously bad at just getting into sin right away again, which is really how
True.
human nature is. But you read so many
Aren't we all?
stories. We're going to do good, we have a good king, and then bang, they're back in sin like one generation later.
okay, here's my main pick with this theory. I actually sort of like the theory that the reason God was commanding these like genocides was because of some Nephilim DNA or something. Or because they discovered some dark arts that they weren't supposed to have or something. He was like, okay, wipe them out. But I always wonder, is it like a Band-Aid that people use to be like, no, God would be too nice to do that. Like God
Well,
would
but
never
how else do
command
you
that.
reconcile it? Because God can't go against his own moral code, right? Or like, how does that work?
Yeah.
So you've got to come up with a way to reconcile, at least in your own head.
But it's judgment.
Yes,
The
but
only
judgment
way
for
that you
what?
would argue sin, the only way that you can argue it's unfair is to the innocent children, right?
Right.
That's the only people. The women,
Right, because
as much as yes, I believe it's like women should be, like I think it's wrong when people go in and kill innocent women and children. Women aren't any more innocent
and
from
I'm saying
sin
women
than
and
men
children
are.
as to because God said thou shalt not kill, but that was the old covenant, and obviously God commanded them to fight and kill their enemies. But the fighting men specifically, right? They were
Yeah.
about to battle.
There was
against
plenty of times that they wiped out an army and let the
yeah
cities
the
live.
the army, but it's just totally different when it's not the people who you're actually fighting. And
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is the children are the only ones that I view as innocent in a scenario like that. The women are as guilty as the men. Sure, they may not be going out and warring, but they're as likely to lead the children of Israel into sin as the men were, even if they weren't Nephilim.
Okay, you're saying
I'm saying
from
because
the
God very
perspective of
clearly
them being
commanded
a
don't
temptation.
intermarry.
Right.
God said never intermarry, pretty much
Why is
never
that?
ever. Because the Israelites were really bad about falling into sin when they married heathenish women.
Yeah,
I mean,
the other
so is
explanation is because he
everyone.
didn't want the bloodlines getting defiled, right? Again, it
Yeah,
comes back to bloodline.
exactly. No, I can see it both ways.
I'm just saying, eventually you have to reconcile thou shalt not kill with kill the women and children and old people and cattle.
Thou shalt not
Okay.
kill was, I would argue, specifically just for the Israelite tribes. You're not allowed killing anybody else in the tribes.
Yeah, because
They were like, I think that's what that rule in parentheses, thou shalt not kill in parentheses any Israelites.
well, and everybody, almost all literary scholars agree that it doesn't mean thou shalt not kill. It means thou shalt not murder.
Yes.
Sure.
Which is a totally different
but
definition.
killing women and children is murder.
Not if they're killing you back.
Right, but are they? Do they
Not
have
necessarily?
Right.
No.
See, that's what I'm saying. There's a complete difference between killing someone in the Old Covenant. There was a complete difference between killing someone in combat and slaughtering like women and children.
Mm.
Like you can't say that's the same thing.
Right. Okay. Two things. First, we know that women and children do sometimes still fight. Like, you see that, 12-year-olds over in the Middle East fighting, their parents give them a weapon and tell them to fight, whatever. So that does happen some, but that wouldn't include, 5-year-olds necessarily. But secondly, I don't like assigning motives to God or having to justify what God does, because we humans cannot say why God judges the way he judges. We can only accept his judgment, right?
Yeah, that is
like,
fair.
it's pretty clear that God gets the final say as to what is right and wrong. But at the same time, I agree, I don't think it makes sense for God to just wipe out women and children with no good cause.
Right, because, you can say,
And so I could see that. I definitely can see that possibility.
Yeah.
It's a subject I've thought about for quite a while, and I'm not sure. I still am not quite sure where I stand with it. The Nephilim, whatever perverted bloodlines theory really appeals to me for that fact. It just sort of takes care of the question, move on to the next thing. But I also am not quite sure if I believe that it all has to do with DNA here. Surely not every Hivite and Jebusite and Hebronite and surely that they weren't all from the same DNA.
But you have to also reconcile, if we're going to say that God was being unfair in killing those women and children, God was also being unfair in that he wasn't really offering them salvation, right? To me, the Old Testament is the Old Covenant is a whole different ballgame when it comes to God's fairness to humanity, or God's salvation and justice to humanity. Because now salvation is for everyone who believes. And back then, you had to be an Israelite or join the Israelites, but God didn't tell them to go out and convert people, ever. I don't think.
But did you have to be? Because, so how about Melchizedek, king of Salem or whatever, clearly identified... Well, okay, yeah. He was
a good Nephilim.
Yeah, I'm saying, but there is occasionally some people who are identified as outside of, obviously he was dealing with Abraham, there wasn't the tribes of Israel had been established yet, who are outside. Even Job would be thought to be completely outside of any Abrahamic bloodline. He would be before that.
Yeah.
And they just lived
and
right.
They lived right. They lived by whatever moral code God gave them or had given their forefathers, and also their conscience, and they're considered righteous people for that. And so, yes, it's somewhat, you could say it's unfair to not give these people a chance at salvation, the fact that they maybe physically can't join Israel, because they're never going to hear about it because they live in China or something at this point in time, right? Theoretically. I don't know how many people lived in China right then, but probably a lot, because, I don't know, people...
And they get curb stomped before they even get a chance to talk to the Israelites if they happen to not live in China.
Yeah, so I'm saying that, again, I think I sort of am with you on the thing that the Old Testament, the old biblical codes for right and wrong are way more vague in my mind than the New Testament.
So then what was the point of God calling out the Israelites as a separate people? If are we saying it wasn't really a plan of salvation, or it wasn't a very complete plan of salvation, right? Because the Messiah had to come.
It wasn't a plan of salvation.
It wasn't designed as a plan
of
of salvation. It was designed
redemption until the plan of salvation. No, that
or
makes sense.
preservation of the bloodline until the Messiah could come.
Sure. Again, God is going to judge. The Bible doesn't actually say that. Yeah, like you said, I don't think
this
the
is
Bible.
A lot of topics.
This is the birthright. So this is the birthright theory, and if you look up Timothy Alberino, maybe I shouldn't name drop, but
I don't know who he
I'm
is.
not endorsing all of his content or anything, but the birthright theory, which is that the Israelites were a people that were designed to preserve a pure human bloodline so that a pure-blooded human Messiah could be born.
Okay.
counts as pure.
Say the genealogy of Jesus is so important and all that. Right. We have the entire genealogy of Jesus back to Adam. So he was fully human or whatever.
So, if that is the case, you're saying this is to prevent Nephilim blood from being in the line of
I
Savior.
think that's what's called the birthright theory. Yeah.
Okay. So if that DNA still existed by the time Jesus came around, and that's why he had to be born from the Jews, whatever, is that what the theory is saying? Because then that means it might be around to today, and we should be able to test for it. We should see some really weird stuff in our DNA tests for random people.
Well, that's where it gets. Yeah. That's very fishy.
We're starting investigating all the Danes. What's the tallest country? I forget, something like that.
The Vikings.
No, that's a tricky one.
I don't know. I bring it up not because I believe it, but because it's interesting.
That's why this topic is so difficult. There's just
because the story of the Israelites, like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense to us, but that maybe makes sense, or maybe you can fit the Nephilim narrative into it. But like, is it too convenient? Is it like, it's.
I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's a reason we're not judging, right? God's going to judge. We're going to see at the great judgment who does and doesn't make it to eternal reward or whatever. And I guess we'll find out there. I'm slow to believe that God would only make a plan of salvation that works for his people in the Old Testament. Like, or you really think he just holocausted all the rest and sent them to eternal damnation?
No,
because they weren't born from a
like
proper
Job and whatnot
family.
is proof that's
I
not
would argue,
what's happening.
I would argue that that's not how it worked. But how did it work? I don't know. I don't judge. It's not my problem, you know. But it is a really interesting question.
No, I'm not sure. I don't think I totally buy into like the birthright whatever theory. But it is true. Then why does God have a chosen nation? Why does he have Israel? But I think that you could say the reason for the reason that God has a chosen nation, Israel, is because he's trying to show the nations of the world, here is how you run a country. Here is how a people should be until the Savior comes. This is how I want you to act. This is how you should act in the world. As sort of like Christians are supposed to be like ambassadors for Christ today, these were like ambassadors for God, being like, here's how you should function, humanity.
Well, and I think it was to pave the way for a Savior.
Well, and also, I see
you wouldn't
it as
have the rich background and history to the Savior coming. If all of a sudden one day, boom, here's this guy. Like, no, we have him foretold for thousands of years.
It's
the story where he's going to come from.
Like the story of the Messiah and of the
prophecies are all fulfilled in the New
The symbolism is all lined up and whatever.
Yeah, because I've often wondered, like, why did God send Jesus in, what we now call 0 AD? Like, that's a long time to have a world sitting around that you didn't bother sending the Savior to. Like, you could have sent it day one.
Right.
But I think it's just a step in the plan to try to get people to understand even what was coming, how big of a deal this was. Even understand, like, here's the laws that you should function by. Here's what I'm saving you from.
Prophets to
well, and was it to prove why we needed a Savior?
Well, that also, like, but that's sort of off topic. But it does open up all those topics. And dude, I'm not a theologian. I don't know what how are we supposed to do.
It's tough.
Too much thinking. I'm not sure about that one. Anything else on the Anakim or Nephilim? Should we get back to that? All. Or maybe we want to wrap it up there. Like, maybe we said what we want to say on it. Anything else about the conquest of Canaan and driving them out?
I don't know. I think the Bible would indicate, I don't have a specific verse to back this up, but I think you're right. There is a verse somewhere that pretty much says they were all the Nephilim were destroyed, more or less. Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe we don't have a definitive, we got them all, yay. But
they never show up again after that verse, I'm pretty confident.
Okay. I would say at least after the time of David, we don't see them again.
Yeah, it seems like David and his mighty men wiped him out. David and his possibly good Nephilim wiped him out, and that was it. So I think that was the end of the Anakim / Nephilim. Hopefully, unless we should be doing DNA tests, but I don't know what you'd be testing for.
you would, I don't know what you would see in the DNA. Like, what would you be looking for? Probably something distinctly different, but you would have to try. Like, you'd want to try a people group that has 6 fingers or something.
Newsflash, we're actually all Nephilim. So the DNA test is like, we look completely normal.
By this time, the DNA is going to be so spread out and so, like, diluted or whatever.
But you would think there would be, like, telltale markers, like random stuff in the DNA that you wouldn't see in animal DNA.
Yeah, I mean, I'd start with tech CEOs, I'm not going to lie. That's who I'd start testing.
I mean, has anybody actually seen Zuckerberg blink? Just a question.
Hey, I'm just asking questions.
It's fair. It's fair. We are all entitled to questions.
And why are they so obsessed with spreading their genes? Like, they're usually very, very obsessed with getting their DNA continued throughout the world. You know, think of, like, Pavel Durov and stuff. Man, maybe, I think you're onto something.
I don't know. But the whole birthright theory is also extends to, or it ties into transhumanism. And I don't know a lot about, I haven't researched a ton of this, but, and the theory that the concept of angels and humans forming a union or making a union and having these offspring is coming back, but in a different form in the union of technology and humans.
Cyborgs, essentially.
And so this concept of transhumanism, which is whatever, as simple as a brain implant or whatever, like it gets deep pretty fast, and I don't know all of that, but that's the conclusion of the birthright theory.
So it's going to be like the third incursion that we invite in as we try to become transhuman.
As technology is the new Nephilim is the union between technology and humans.
I don't know.
And,
I don't think I believe that, but that's actually like symbolic.
Well, remember the Watchers brought technology, right?
True.
They brought metalworking and all that. So the birthright theory is deep and it's very interesting, but I don't know. I haven't researched it.
I don't really think I believe it, but it still is like a good warning against transhumanism. So maybe I like the theory just based on that because I hate transhumanism.
I mean, I'm slow to believe that all like brain implants are wrong. Like you can use them to whatever make paralyzed people not paralyzed.
Well,
they do.
I don't think that's the argument.
Crazy stuff, but at what point does it become wrong? Is a great question. I mean, definitively there is a point that it becomes wrong.
Well, here's why I think transhumanism is wrong: is that they're trying to exceed humans. Basically, they're saying we are going to become almost another race. We're gonna become a god race. We're gonna live forever. We're gonna expand our intellect far beyond what we were designed to handle.
And you give up your humanity, and that's well, the core concept of the birthright theory is you must be human, fully human, to accept God's salvation because Jesus was fully human and died only for the human race. And so, at some point, with both the Nephilim and with technology, you give up your humanity, is the argument, and you are not part of the human race anymore, and you cannot receive salvation.
Okay.
It's like what's his name ships that you replace the plank at one point is
right,
no longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for it's like replacing yourself until you're not even sure if you're the same person.
Sure.
I like that thought.
I guess the one thing we know from the New Testament that would tie into that, specifically you losing salvation if you're not truly human, is the only way that you can no longer become savable. Well, that's not the word. The only way that you can no longer become redeemable is at the point that you commit the ultimate sin or whatever, right?
Or you receive the mark of the beast.
Blaspheme God.
Right, because this birthright thing extends into end time prophecy too.
Are we sure that the mark of the beast absolutely damns you forever?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the Bible
I'm not sure
indicates.
Just say that.
Well, I think the Bible indicates that those who have the mark of the beast will not be saved. I thought Revelation says that pretty clearly.
Right, but can you undo it? I guess.
Can you undo it? Is the question.
I thought it just says whether or not you are, no one will. I thought that was more what the Bible said.
Well, it more says that like those who follow Jesus will have his mark, and everybody else will have the mark of the beast. And so I would almost see it more as like an identifier, as like here. Now the question is, could you have? then you get in the Mark of the Beast, and
Well,
then
you
you get
get
Revelation, and then you're stuck there for like ages.
If you're in Revelation, we might as well start a whole new episode, and it's going to have to be more than 3. I mean, we're going to start a whole new series. It's going to have to be more than 3 episodes if we were to cover that.
I mean, what's Revelation, 22 chapters or something? We could do like 22 episodes.
Well, but you got to cover the pre-millennial, all-millennial, post-millennial, whatever, if you want to get into Revelation. It gets really messy.
Yeah, maybe comment if you want us to get into Revelation.
I'd be down.
Not a theologian, but it'd be hilarious. It'd be
Hey,
fun.
I mean, what's the reason we podcast? We podcast because it's fun, to be
Yeah, that's
educated
true.
just because we can. I mean, I'm always open to education.
That's right. No,
Yeah, drop a comment if you want us to dive into Revelation. It won't be the best, it won't be the cleanest, but
I mean, I'm down to
I'm
give it a
down
try
to
for
give it a
sure.
shot. If y'all want it.
Also, maybe I'll just make this announcement here. Doug's going to be gone for a while, and I'm not sure. We might
Rest
do
his
it.
soul.
Yeah, hopefully not. We might do an episode or 2 without him, and so we'll probably try to get some
Might get
guests
some surprise guests, yeah.
or maybe we'll just say we're not going to do any without him. I don't know. We'll see.
Could get my wife on.
That's true. You could. Hey, comment if you want to have.
Yeah. Team Janita, get in the comments and say so.
Let's do it.
If you want
Yes.
to see her on.
No. Any closing comments? I'd say we may as well end this episode here.
I mean, thanks guys for joining us for this episode on the Nephilim and the whole series.
Yeah,
It's been good. I've enjoyed it. I don't feel like I know. I know more than when I started. I don't know that I'm much more decided on what I think than when I started. I'm a little more decided. But I don't know. It's been good. It's been good.
I love studying this stuff, but I thought I would have a more definitive answer, especially on the Conquest of Canaan, and no. I think the more I studied, I was like, I am just not sure about this. And hey, I guess, too much studying is bad, but this was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this episode of the Nuggy Guys podcast. You can find all of our past and future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please go there and leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Share it with a friend. Give it a like if you think we deserve it. And we'll see you on the next one.
And as always, argue vehemently in the comments section. Just kidding. Be careful out there.